Okay then, Sissy, having gone to India, is it what you expected? Did it live up to your expectations?
Initially, India is not what I expected. I thought it to be more archaic than I came across and less cutting edge than I experienced with some of the designers I met. As for exceeding my expectations, it's totally blown them away. I just didn't realise that all this diversity and creativity was going to be there in India. I mean, I've worked and been in education within the fashion industry for the past 17 years, so I've learned so much information about manufacturing, supplying, couture, fashion design. So to actually go to India and see it from the base product, from yarns being dyed, to garment manufacture, to the fabric actually being made and embellished, to being presented, to the runway shows that are now emerging in India. It's just amazing to see how fashion is still behind the times in India, but is moving at a steady pace. And to actually meet the people there who are the pioneers of this was an amazing experience.
So you think it's catching up?
I think it's really catching up on the UK market, and I think with the techniques and the embellishment work and the cost of manufacturing there, that there's going to be a lot more progression within the Indian fashion sector.
Well, it's certainly a fast-growing economy, isn't it? So
yes, definitely. Everyone in India sells. Everyone's a salesperson. I mean, that's down to the street kids who are selling magazines on the street, to people who are selling handmade wooden fans when your car pulls up at lights. Everyone in India seems to have entrepreneurial qualities about them. So everyone's just making their mark and wanting to progress, which is great to see. People just don't sit and lie about. People make a difference. People make the mark.
Right. Was there anything in particular that you learned from the experience?
I've learned so much, really. I've learned the number one thing is to not take what you've got for granted, and that's real. That's reality. That from seeing some of the sites I've seen to seeing what we have here, it makes me learn a lot about what we've got, and that I should be really pleased for it. It's also what I've learned is also going to make me learn other people. So to learn my young people who come on my workshops about how it is in India, what Indian people have, how Indian people aspire to better themselves. I think that would be a good little workshop to teach my kids and to show them images from India and images from the fashion workshops around there. So, I mean, I've learned loads. I've learned that I can succeed in anything I want to do. I mean, we had a meeting with a guy called Sissy, and he's the president of the Indian Fashion Council. And he told us about his history for the past 40 years, down from when he arrived in India with a suitcase full of a couple of things to sell, to now being the president of a major company, and about going through different things, going through different knocks and being knocked down on the floor and then picking himself back up and just pursuing everything really that he wanted to pursue, regardless of what other people were saying to him. And he had true entrepreneurial spirit, and I seemed to connect with him. His whole interview, I was just engrossed in. I was like, this is me, I'm going to work my way up to be as high as him and make my mark.
So hopefully. This is where you see yourself being in a few years' time, is it?
Yeah, president of something. Sounds good.
Going back to the street level, I know you do quite a lot of work with children in this country, so this is your building up. Did you see an opening for that sort of work to be carried on there?
Well, yes, I did. I seen the street kid. I actually worked with a group of street kids, which is one of my most memorable moments. I contacted a company called the Doorstep School and went with them down into the actual slums where literally probably white people don't go, because the response I got from people was just really, really good. People were just like looking at me, smiling at me, and I had 17 children all around me, and I took them into this workshop unit and taught them how to do fashion design. But next door to my unit was a computer unit, and this was actually in the slums. So these organisations, which NGOs, who were already there at the moment, teaching kids off the street how to do computers, learning them to be literate, so they can then move out to the slums and get a job and hopefully better their own existence and the family's existence.
Excellent. There was a particular meeting or individual or a moment that inspired you, other than obviously the gentleman who you mentioned briefly?
Well, yeah, the gentleman, Sunil Saheti, yeah. And also working with the Doorstep School now has made me want to come back here and set a charity up. Hopefully get UK fashion designers and big major players involved so they can all be associated with the street style surgery, making it into a big brand, so when people see it they recognise that the youth of today is benefiting from this in an entrepreneurial way, and also that % of profits or money that is gained by the street style surgery is then distributed to charities both in India on the street and both in the UK. I also met an amazing guy who runs a business. He's a young entrepreneur and he's called Sanjit, and he runs an embroidery business. And the embellishment and the work that's possible from his company is absolutely outstanding. I mean, it makes you just think you can take a plain black dress and put some embellishment work on the collar, and I mean you would really drool over it. So now I'm in talks with him about hopefully setting up a fashion label with him or on my own. I also met a company called, just let me check, I don't want to say it wrong, Samel and Bohemica. And these are a couple who run their own ethical fashion business selling couture bridal wear to non-Indian residents. And they have offered basically all of us the opportunity to go back to India whenever we want, and they will give us a fully functioning unit with pattern cutters, manufacturers, suppliers of everything, and they will help us get our collection off the ground and up and running, and also give us instructions to Indian Fashion Week so we can show there. Now, before I went away to this trip, my fashion collection had been put on hold. It had been put on hold 2 years ago because I couldn't source the manufacturing contacts for it, even though my collection was strong and I was having interest from trade shows and buyers. So now this is totally reigniting my fashion design spark. I mean, I've been trained in the industry for 17 years. I'm an excellent pattern cutter, fashion designer. I know all about fabrics, warps, wefts, threads, dye, yarns, consistencies of dyes, etc, etc. So to leave all this to go to waste and to concentrate on my street style surgery, I think would be doing me personally an injustice. So now I'm toying with the possibility of going back to India and manufacturing my own collection and getting it on the market. Just an 8-piece small collection first, but to start my design flair going, because I feel that if I'm happy and content in what I'm doing and using my skills to reward me, then it's going to benefit all my other little businesses.
So you see it being a multifaceted development of your own fashion couture sort of house, the street style surgery working with children, and other developments that you have in mind for underwear, men's underwear and so on?
Yeah, I know, I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur and I've got loads of ideas going on, but I'm not silly either. I know that I've got to do one step at a time, and Sunil Saheti expressed this. He said, don't go and try and do everything. Do one small thing, commit to it, and then move on to another thing, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to toy with the idea of my own fashion collection, which will become apparent if I go back to India and start learning these manufacturing techniques. I'll be then in my house, well, in my studio, making patterns and being inspired again. So, I mean, and also there's the Street Style Surgery fashion bag, which is a fashion bag. Everything required to make a fashion garment in a bag. And I've been speaking to an Indian designer in India who also wants to do an Indian fashion bag. So, I mean, the Street Style Surgery is going to go global.
So there seem to be lots of developments, lots of exciting things about to happen, coming from the street style surgery and from Sissy Rooney in general.
Watch this space, because my time has come now. I've worked really hard for this, and my time has come.
And do you find any conflict at all between the ethical considerations of perhaps the standards of employment practices in some parts of India?
I think we as British consumers are a bit jaded in our ideas of what ethical fashion is in India. I think there is really bad practices going on in India, but everyone we met, the majority of them, are doing good practices. Whether that person has to be there for 10 hours or not working, that's a job, and that is providing income for their family or not. So to actually go in there and to scrub out everything that's unethical would actually bring the economy down, and it would cause a lot more people to live on the streets. So my views are changing about that now, but I want the street style surgery to strengthen that to the UK consumer.
Thank you very much indeed, Sissy.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cool.